All right, so well, welcome everybody. Thanks for bearing with us through that part of it. We'll get to the topics here in a minute, but I thought it'd be kind of fun just to talk about. We just got through Memorial Day weekend. Actually, hang on, Tyler, what are you drinking?
So I'm doing a cocktail first. It's basically a Negroni, but with rye whiskey, rye bourbon whiskey. They say there's an echo on the thing, but we might just have to have an echo. Um, oh, I hear it now.
Okay, I think I know how to fix that. Hang on.
But anyways, it's a Negroni. It's essentially it's a Negroni, but instead of gin, it's rye whiskey and bourbon. That sweet, sweet ZMF tuning.
Right?
Yeah, so these are my uh, Caldera clothes. Not the best lighting here. I have like a daylight light above, which I just because I didn't want, I was being lazy, I didn't want to put on my background lights, and so everything has like this weird hue to it because of that. And then I have like a 5500 Kelvin side light, so it makes everything weird looking. But um, yeah, so that's what I'm drinking, and the whiskey I'm drinking is it's a rye bourbon blend, so it makes for a pretty tasty. Called a Belvedere, I believe, is what the cocktail's called. And
Nice.
then for backup, when I finish that, if we get that far, I brought out my Method to Madness, but I pre-poured it so I don't drink too much in my in my little whiskey glass here.
Nice.
Anyways,
Uh,
what are you rocking?
are you still getting echo? I was messing with some stuff while you were talking there.
All good.
Wasn't ignoring Tyler. We went through this off
We
camera, so you
already
guys
talked
know.
about what we're drinking.
So this thank you, Bree, got me my first Dalmore to test out.
Nice.
So 12 age 12 years sherry cask. It's good. I like it.
Yeah,
So
sherry cask adds a nice sweetness to
it does. Yeah, it is very smooth. There you go,
it.
Mark.
Yes.
Grab a drink. Yeah, you guys have to let me know. I turned down my output a little bit to see if that would help with the echo. I will get this right for the next time since this is our first time using Streamlabs. But if the echo's not too bad, we'll push forward.
Yeah, it could be that I'm on, yeah, like what Key just said. It could be I'm on two outputs. So if there's like a desktop and then the guest, you can mute the desktop, or if there's, that's usually how that.
Okay, let me.
So you can see, if you, which is weird, because in OBS, you can actually see what's active. And I closed my Streamlabs, but usually you can see what's like popping when I'm talking. If there's two things popping, you can mute one of them. And then if I mute completely, then you know to mute the other one.
Right.
What are you rocking for headphones right now?
Oh, this is the Harmonic Dyne Athena. I wanted something just easy to drive, and they're pretty much closed back. I mean, they call them like that semi-open, but yeah. I mean,
No more echo. There it is.
okay.
Well, I was thinking about switching because these are a little bit lighter, but to the bokeh, the bokeh.
Nice.
That's how
Very,
I
very
pronounce it.
nice.
Bokeh. Yeah, actually, you know what's funny is I've been using these more than the Calderas because I use them for when I'm gaming, playing video games, and just general use. They're so light and comfy, and they remind me of a atrium. The atrium closed, so which I have like all, like not all my ZMFs, but I have a bunch of my ZMFs just sitting down here because I thought we were going to talk about ZMFs maybe. But here's my atrium
Yeah.
closed on the lovely goose stand.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, we'll definitely get into some CMF because I've got it behind me over here as well. And
Keeve's gonna send you an invoice for tech support.
right, I saw that. And Tyler's jealous endgame headphone he wish he had. I had to say it.
That's fair. No, you're good. You know what's funny is like I don't really have a relationship with the Dan Clark folks. Yo,
Right.
Jay's in the house.
Hey Jay.
But I mean, I've never, the only ones I ever liked was the Ethers,
Yeah.
the
I
Ether 2
we
specifically.
can talk after, but I mean if you want to hear these, man, I'll send them out to you.
Yeah, I've never
think
heard those ones. So
they're good. They actually have dynamics.
that's what everyone keeps telling me.
Yeah.
That's right. AOTD.
All right.
I
So
need to start putting up shirts. All right, let's hit
we'll
me with
dive
some
in. So
deep thoughts.
Deep
do
thoughts,
this.
and like you said, before we get too much into the whiskey, it'd be good to start with these topics. So,
Rigo.
Toxicity. Rigo, what's going on, man? Yeah, I wanted to talk about toxicity just because as YouTubers, we see it a lot. But, not just in comments, but you guys all see it when you go to Headfire or, God, Reddit. I don't even go on
Anywhere.
Reddit these days, but anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not just audio, but I mean, obviously we see it a ton in audio. And I thought it was fitting to choose when you and I were talking about it, toxicity and narcissism, because they kind of go hand in hand. Like you start being toxic and then it turns into a narcissistic type reaction.
Yeah. And I think it's also, for me, like I've noticed groupthink, right? So you get a lot of that too, which then, so if you are a member of like a group that is toxic, generally, like you slowly become that kind of thing, right? Like you'll slowly become toxic yourself. But like and which is, it could be difficult to like wrap your brain around or kind of like even see for yourself or be self-aware enough to be like, whoa, I'm actually being kind of toxic. Like why? And that's part of the reason why I actually left a bunch of Discords and forums and all that stuff, just because it just was so, I don't know. It took up so much time, weeding through all that stuff. And sometimes you're just like, oof, I got enough problems on my plate. I don't need all these other people's problems on my plate,
Right. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, it kind of breeds, it gets started. And then unless you are one to try to put a stop to it or whatever, it just keeps festering.
And then as soon as you try to do that, dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like Keep just nailed it, actually. Yeah. As soon as you try to spit facts and come at people with, hey, you're being a little, then they take it as a direct attack. And it's like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know how many times on either, like I said, like forums or on YouTube videos or whatever that, somebody feels so passionately opposite of you that it's like, okay, let's just agree to disagree, but you don't have to attack or say you don't know what the hell you're talking about or whatever else. That's the stuff gets under my skin. But point to your advice is don't engage. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing.
And like I remember we had discussions about that. Like it's funny, like I've had a couple run-ins with some like commenters on my YouTube channel, but for whatever, I think I'm small enough that and I don't know, like I don't really get too many proper toxic people, but you do. Like every once in a while you get somebody that comes in, it's like the first time watching one of your episodes or your whatever videos, and they're just like super negative or toxic. And usually, like I think I've told you too before, it's like I just give them a heart and move on, or I'll engage, but I'll engage in a like self-deprecating way or like a or in a silly way where I just like where it's I don't try to like I don't engage in an aggressive way, I guess I should say. I might engage in a sarcastic way, but I don't really.
Right. Well, what's sad about that too is I was reading on I'm always going to call it Twitter because I personally hate the word X for a platform. But I was on there the other day and I saw Brian from Bad Seed, and he's funny, dude. I like following some of the stuff he says. But one thing he said was, I can't remember who it was, but somebody made a comment about, man, I was trying to be nice to somebody and thanking them, and then all of a sudden I got all this bad hate from it. And he was like, yeah, that's why I don't comment at all. And I'm like, that is sad. That when you get that big. And because I always wondered that, I'm like, man, these guys, they're like 300 some subscribers. I get it, or 1,000. I mean, or over 1 million, and you never see them comment hardly. And I guess that's probably why, because they're like, oh, if you comment positive, suddenly you're showing favoritism towards whatever somebody said, and then they attack you for that. It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation. So they just don't, and that's sad.
It is sad because it's like that's part of the reason why I did this to begin with, like starting up a YouTube thing and whatever, was because I enjoyed the community aspect of it, right? Like I enjoyed chatting with people, and and then it is that there's that pitfall, right? Is like the bigger you get, the less engagement you get, which is weird because you are getting more engagement as like on a different level. It's not the same like one-to-one, right? Or you're not meeting all these cool people, or you're not chatting with people, even if it is just via comments. You're getting talked at more, I think, right?
Yeah.
And that's just me talking with some of my other buddies that have, like, I've met Brian personally, and I've hung out with Josh and those guys that are a little bit bigger, and like you're right, they just don't engage. Like, I know one of the advice I got was hilarious from one of the younger guys who had way bigger following. He was just like, he's like, my job isn't to talk to people. My job is to make videos and put them out. I was like, that's cool. But at the same time, I'm like, that's not what I want to, I enjoy the engagement,
Yeah, no, I do too. And yeah, I mean, it does make you think twice before you're commenting in the public, I suppose. But no, I mean, I enjoy that part of it too. I can't imagine ever getting to that point where I'm just like, sorry, don't want to talk to you. I don't want the backlash. I don't know.
Darko did it too. Like, he shut down comments entirely. Like, he doesn't even have.
Oh, he doesn't have turned on.
I think he finally recently returned them on, but we're missing a very deep discussion about grottos in the chat, apparently.
They are also.
But like, so I was gonna say, like, the other thing that I found is interesting is, like, so you get the group think and the and then you get the people, and that's where the narcissism comes in, right? So you have the toxicity, but then you get people with the toxicity that it kind of goes hand in hand with narcissism in this sense, where some people get lifted up into these positions of knowledge or power or whatever people deem them as the end all be all for whatever the, advice or what have you. And then that's where I think a lot of people fall into the trap of narcissism, right? Because now they have this fan club, I guess you could say, or they have a following. And it's just like, and then that happens. And then, so then actually, speaking of the grottos, like what Rigo just said, sad part is that some people will never buy grottos because of YouTubers, right? So that's a perfect example of it. In fact, DMS just put out, and I'm not throwing shade at him, but like he just literally put out a video making fun of grottos.
He did.
And like I have a pair of grottos. They're just sitting back there. I know Jay has a bunch of grottos. And one of my favorite headphones I've listened to was the grotto hemps. And those were, and then obviously I put the Yaxi pads on them. And then it's kind of like Cost Porter Pros. You throw some Yaxis or some better pads on those things, and they're actually pretty good, man. There are some that are like definitely stabby, but I mean, if that's what you're into, I mean, hell, you could say the same thing about. I have a ton of headphones on the floor next to me. Your 700s? But the HC800s, man, these things are without all the mods, like those can be stabby, And then for me, like I honestly, I felt that Hi-Fi Man was way more stabby than the grottos half the time. So I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm not a Hi-Fi Man fan though. So I mean, but I could be part of that problem too. Like, 'cause I talk poo about Hi-Fi Man, like, but I also try to couch it with like, that's my opinion. Like, I don't listen for yourself, but my view is this, and that's how to stay away from being toxic or narcissistic, I guess. I don't know, like really lean into, I don't know, high five. Thank you, Beef. Thank you. Beef gets it.
Hey, they're not all as bad as another, but yes, in general, I would agree. Yes. So, but yeah, no, it's kind of funny, but I don't think any of us would come to the defense of them. But it's even the same way for beats, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you're going to get into audio, don't talk beats. You can't do that.
It's bananas. It's bananas. Like, here's the ultimate thing that I think is fun. Speaking on that, sorry, I'm overtaking. But like beats, right? Like, at the end of the day, what are we in this hobby for? Like
enjoy music.
These things are just tools to get me to the thing I'm actually trying to engage with, which is the music.
Yep.
So it's like, why, you know what I mean? Like, why? It's like kind of, I don't know. It's like being pissed at somebody because they have a different BMX bike than you as a kid, right? Or like, oh, you don't have a Huffy or you don't have a Red Line, then oh, dude, loser. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like,
well, I mean, that's like we talked about, just like at the top of this with toxicity and all that. It's everything. This is not just an audio problem by any means. It's, you know, and brand recognition and all of that stuff. I mean, hell, just I don't know, it was a little bit ago, my nephew-in-law was over, and he was listening to, well, this was a while back, because I still had the Radiance, but he was like, whoa, what the hell are these? Like, these sound amazing, because he's used to his Beats headphones.
Yeah.
But then in that same night, I think we were talking shoes, and Bree said something about Skechers, and he's like, Skechers? Who wears Skechers? Like,
hey, dude, I rock
Same
Crocs,
thing.
man. I don't, hey, you know,
yeah.
I rock the dad Crocs. I'm all about it. In fact, I found these posted recently. I don't know if I sent them to you or not, but Pringles did a collaboration with Crocs recently, and they put little Pringle can holders on the sides of these Croc boots.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's hilarious. It's so bad, it's good. Dude, it's one of those things, right? But like it's I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things, man. Like these guys are talking about too. It's like you just. I like Marvin's quote. I'm in this hobby to yell at people on Reddit. There's someone on the internet is wrong, and I'm here to tell them they're wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that's just it, man. It's like like Jay just nailed it a little bit too. Like he basically said what he say respects about how Grotto don't give in to trends, right? And that's I think also part of the problem is you have content creators who are chasing. In fact, there's a video just recently by what was that guy's name? He's a camera reviewer, but he basically was calling out like the camera industry for like the craziness of like chasing the trends, only allowing certain people to have things, right? But and it spoke to me in the sense of like another problem is you have people chasing trends, right? Like these headphones, just because they're not like the latest hotness or the latest thing that came out. I mean, look at the HD 600s or 650s. I mean, those are like 30-year-old headphones, even HD 100s, you know, like these things they're still stupid good. The Grottos, they're still stupid good, you know, like, but because they're not the latest hotness, it's like people are like, meh, you know.
Cost per pros. Been around for years.
Dude, I got a bunch of sets sitting over there.
Yep, same. Those never die.
Jay gets it too. Hi from giving in those trends, man.
I know when we were at Can Jam last year, or no, not last year, this past year in New York, and Bree listened to the Grottos, the Bluetooth. I remember I got on there and I was like, yeah, she loved them actually. And Jay was like, they don't have a cord. You can't count that. But she liked them. I mean, I listened to them for like a minute and they were all right, but I didn't get enough time with them to give an opinion. But Bluetooth, same thing. It's kind of along that same path too. Like, I think that's the other thing that gets way too much hate in the hobby. And
dude, you have cords, them. The Aravana Ace 2s.
Yeah.
Aravana,
nice.
Yeah, Aravana.
They're really
dude,
nice.
Marvin has a set too. I use those almost daily, over my AirPods. So good. In fact, Marvin was the one that told me. He was the one that kind of put it in my head. He's like, he mentioned I was chatting with him about it, and he was talking about it reminds him of car stereo with the sub bass of the stereo of a car, right? Where it has that it's like almost completely separate from the mids and highs, and it's just thumps. And that's how and I was like, dude, once that, I was like, dude, that was it. I was trying to figure out the nostalgia play that I was having with them, and that was
they are tight for the price they come in at. Like, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not overdone. I was very impressed with them. And they got their quirks, but everything has their quirks, especially when you're dealing with something wireless. I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
They had that weird ANC mic thing.
Yeah.
I think they might have been fixing. I just got an update for it recently, but
they were working on it.
I was gonna say back to like any topic regarding from the chat, like what their like thoughts are on. I mean, obviously we have a kind of interesting chat going about it, and we're kind of jumping all over the place. I have ADHD, so like I tend to just.
It's all good.
And then you throw booze on top of it, and I'm all over the place. But what's your guys' thoughts? Any questions for us regarding our thoughts on some maybe the more recent like toxic stuff happening? I think.
Yeah, I guess just to kind of. I didn't come into this with like a specific example because that would be easy to do, and I don't want to put anybody on blast. I don't want to stoop to somebody else's level. If you guys bring up something, by all means, that's fine. I just, in general, is what I was talking about because it just happens all the time. I mean,
Yeah, I think I was going to bring up something specific, but not to a specific person or creator, or more of like a group kind of thing. And I was going to say, it seems like there's a group, and it's a trend recently. I think it's starting to go away, though. I'm starting to see the trend slowly taper back, because it's like any hobby, right? They have the peaks and valleys, depending on which part you're in is a peak or a valley, obviously. But like when I was first coming into this, we were on the downswing of the audio hobby, seemed to be on a downswing of the subjective side, right? Like it was everyone, we were moving away from subjective as I was coming into the hobby, and then it had this huge peak going towards the objective side. And I don't really agree with the objective side too much. Like I think it's important to have the measurements and to have a very like scientific. Look, that's another, like, I have a gripe about that, the term scientific in this world we're in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that's a problem, right? Like where there needs to be a balance. Like you need to understand like that like measurements only tell you so much, but
right.
people put way too much credibility into it when there's so many varying factors that kick in for each individual person, which is crazy, right? Like, and it can come down to like a psychology even, right? Like, because you and I could be at the same concert, but we'll walk away with completely different experiences, even though we're literally sitting next to each other watching the same show. Like there's a whole, you know what I mean, slew of things that kick in when you're listening to gear. Like I like the color purple. So like for me, like these are purple, I'm already inclined to like them. And there's like a psychological level there, right? You can even go into the form of, and that's like an aesthetic thing. So my aesthetic, or is it aesthetically pleasing to me? Is it feel good in my hands? Does it, there's all these other factors that kick in. And then, yes, there is an objective factor of like, yes, the audio is, like you can talk the Harman curve and all that stuff, but like, that's only one part of it. There's a whole other part to audio and the enjoyment of audio that's completely skipped over. But I don't know, and that's just me rambling. But
I mean, I agree with you, and I think the problem is because I always relate this to computers, and I'm a PC gamer. I know you are too, and that's how I grew up. And I very much got into all of that on YouTube videos and trying to figure out, the next rig I'm going to build and all that. But that's very specific and very easy to measure because this card, this chip equals this FPS. And I think how that spilled over into into the audio world is because people have a problem with just trusting someone's judgment. So they need to see validation on paper or on something else. And that's just really hard to do. I mean, because like you said, a graph is a graph, but we still may not hear it that way. In general, maybe I'll bring up a good example, and I don't want to say too much because I know I'm not supposed to, but I have the Sennheiser 620S. I told you I got that in. That comes out next week. If you look at the graph on that, I can tell you right now, I don't hear it that way. Because they posted the graph on it. I looked, I was like, well, that's going to be a problem. But that's my point, is like somebody just spit out a graph on it. They're like, this is what it sounds like.
Yeah, dude.
No.
I mean, dude, I'm with you, dude. Like, so here's one of the things that was one of my big, like, I have moments where these like moments of clarity, or I don't know what to call it, but like, or I witness something and I'll be like, wait a second, that's not right. And so like I had this person and they were listening to a pair of audio gear, IEMs, I think, and they were out on a thing. They're messaging the group, and they're like, "Man, this thing sounds amazing. It sounds, the lows are great, the mids are great, the highs are a little bit bright, but they're fine. Blah 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 blah." I'm just, spitballing here, and then like the weekend goes past, and then that person measures the item in question. And they went from having this, like the first few like messages, it was in this group chat thing, right? And it was like, oh, it's great. And then literally after measuring it, they put out a thing about it and it's just scathing. Like, oh, it's horrible. It measures horribly. This sounds horrible. It's garbage. And you're just like, what just there's like this massive disconnect of like
It
listening
is-
to it blind versus the, you know, and it was just like,
Right. It is very hard, I think, for a lot of the, and I don't just mean YouTubers, because obviously there's tons of written reviews.
everywhere. Yeah.
I think it's very hard for just people in general that are reviewing and you're reviewing with graphs to still hold firm to their opinion once they see a graph. And that's the problem I have with them. That's why I don't want to use them, is I don't even want that bias to creep into my head. Like, oh, I should be hearing that. Crap, I need to redo this video. No, I don't want to do that. That's why I don't
Dude,
put
you
graphs
just-
on there, guys.
You just nailed the next piece of that, dude.
Yeah.
In fact, I think even Vince was saying it too, or a little bit earlier. But like people like and their biases, the tribalism, and like I love tribalism. Honestly, I think tribalism is minus the negative connotation of it. I like the sense of like a village, right? Like that sense of tribalism. But the tribalism these guys are talking about is like the more toxic tribalism, right? But like, I just wanted to be clear on that context. Sorry, I don't know why my ADHD brain was like, you need to clarify that statement. Like it's crazy, man, how you can get into these discussions of like what we're having right now and just gets super toxic and to the right because people just can't get past their biases. They can't or they're unaware of their biases. This is the scary part, is being so unaware of your own biases that they don't realize that they're spitting, kind of what Kiba's even mentioned, I think, before too, is people, or maybe it was Marvin or one of you guys, but they were talking about how people will spit their subjective opinion as facts. And that's basically you spitting your biases out as a statement of fact rather than an opinion, that's I think ultimately one of the bigger problems in that toxicity and the what have you.
Sorry, bonsai tree.
Oh, dude, I love bonsai trees. I
do
have a bunch
too.
of bonsai tree books, dude. I've killed so many. I want them to survive.
Oh, that's funny.
But
I mean, no, I totally agree with everything you said on that. Because there's a lot more good to that, I think, than there is the bad. It's just the bad, unfortunately, gets
squeaky
attention.
wheel gets the oil, man.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, a little bit too much. I don't know. I think the narcissism thing, second part of this whole topic's kind of been included in all of this, like you were saying, just because, I mean, like I said, I don't want to bring out specific examples, but you know.
And we keep it. I mean, I brought up some people's names, but that was only because it was recent, like in regards to the DMS Grotto thing, just because he just put out the Grotto video. It was joking. Like even says in the title, it was a joke. You know, he's joking. Yeah. But like, so I felt safe bringing that up, not because I was trying to put him in a bad light or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think we should start. If you're not paying attention to the chat, we should definitely do a bonsai tree group. Big Bay Area bonsai meet.
BAB. Yeah, there you go. Just trying to figure out the
we should
abbreviations
figure out, instead of meet, should be a what would be like a Y or an E. Bonsai raffles.
Totally off topic, but I don't know, the BABA just kind of remind me of that. But I don't know if you remember, like a year ago, I talked to you about possibly doing a video of you might be an audiophile if kind of the whole like Jeff Foxworthy redneck type video. Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to do that, and there's 400 pages on HeadFi. I didn't even know the thread existed of
you might be an
audiophile when there's 400 pages on it. So I've been sifting through that for the last couple of days. There's some good ones on there, but the reason why I bring that up is if you guys have any good ones and you want to throw them in chat during this chat, please do, because I'm gonna make a video out of it. I might actually have Bree read it because I thought it'd be hilarious for her to read it and be like, "What? What does this even mean?" So I can explain it.
See, we can all be Bay Area Bonsai Expo. Exactly, we can all be babes.
Says something about your actual personality. The wild thing was, he said, Grado fans is pretty accurate for me.
I do remember that. That was pretty funny. Like I don't know, man.
So
I think that'd be great.
Us liking ZMF. You like wood?
I like wood. I was gonna say it makes us chill, easygoing folk.
Yes. Pretty much. The persona of Zach himself.
Like,
So
man, yeah, Zach, such a good dude. Same with Bevan. That whole crew, man. The whole ZMF crew, man. There's such good people there, man. It's
Yes.
crazy how. But see, perfect example, right? The environment they've created is an environment of inclusion and chillness, and like, you know, at least from my experience with them. Obviously, I don't see them every day. I don't know exactly, but just my experience in witnessing it, they've
Right.
created an environment where people thrive being good people. From at least from my experience with engaging with that crew. And by crew, I mean their whole team that I've met so far. Like, you know, you are your environment to some level, right? You kind of mimic and regurgitate what other people in your groups, your tribe, do. So I don't know.
I agree. I own cables with wood. Interesting. Are they cables paired up with your ZMF? I guess that would be my question.
Wood on wood crime. Let's go.
Right. So, I don't know. Is that a good segue to talk about Caldera Close for a little bit? Or do we want to? I guess, guys, if you got something else about toxicity or narcissism, we could probably talk hours on that easily, but and feed the trolls, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't want to feed the trolls too much, but where's the light there? There we go. So there's sorry, Rigo, atriums. There they are, man. The purple people eaters.
Nice. Now, the atriums you got, are those... Gosh, I can't remember. Are they the red ones, Rigo? He was just showing me, and I don't remember if that was red or purple or green. I don't know. I'm seeing colors. It's the drink.
Yeah. Doing that? Yeah.
Silver. Yeah, I was way off. Red, green.
Samsonite. Samsonite. I was way off. Just let it go, man. Just let it go.
Yep, just stop.
Yeah, man. So Atrium closed. I've been listening to them, dude. I'm so backlogged. I got back from the Philippines and got super sick, and then I was just like sick for like a month, and so like my whole world just got completely. I'm so behind. I'm still working on the video for this thing. I did a bunch of A-roll today. Hopefully, I'll find one of the A-rolls I did that actually doesn't need a ton of cutting. And then I still have these to do. I have a topping thing I have to do. Yeah. Ugh, it's just so far behind. And then once I get overwhelmed, my brain starts freaking out, and I'll be like, I'll just do that later. Oh yeah, Jay, he just got rid of his atriums.
I saw that. Yeah, I sadly sold mine a while back as well, but that's only because I wanted the closed. So it's, that's fair, right?
Fair.
Swap.
Fair.
I preferred the closed.
So I've sold 2 ZMFs my entire time of owning ZMFs, and it's because I had duplicates. I had 2 Aeolus, and I had 2 Verite opens, so I didn't need both, right? And it's funny, man. Even though I had 2, there's a part of me that was like, and this speaks to the whole like gotta collect them all, or like the ZMF thing, right? When you see people with FZMFs, they have huge collections, and Beef knows what I'm talking about. And actually, most of the guys here know what I'm talking. You do too. Like, once you get a ZMF,
yes.
If I can, yeah. Like, and it's like, man, I regret selling, even though I had them. If I had the same, and so
yeah,
funny how that works.
No, I agree. I mean, to be perfectly honest, like I got the O-Tour Classic, the purple one that I had stabilized a while back, and I don't listen to them as much as I like the Atrium. And to be honest, like once I finally get them in to listen to the final product, I think I might actually like the Boca Open over those. But I'm not getting rid of the O-Tour Classic because there's still times that I throw them on and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I remember about them. So, but I haven't even listened to every single ZMF like you guys have, so my experience is about halfway there.
Well, I mean, it's a irrational thing to want to keep those things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But and I get it. Like, there's part of me like, I don't have, like my wife always says, how many sets of ears do you have? How many headphones do you have? Like, why do you need But yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, I know what you mean though, because it was a lot easier for me to sell like my full cal radiants. I even sold my 109 Pro and I had them because it looks like every other one that's out there, sadly enough. And I was like, yeah, whatever. If I ever want them back someday, I'll see if I can get them back. But this stuff, this one doesn't look like any other atrium close that's out there. I don't want to get rid of it. I think it's cool.
Oh, and so that's actually another reason why I think ZMFs have hit on something. Even like the stock woods, even the stock stuff, like
right.
Each headphone they put out is unique because it is the nature of wood, right? Like you just the nature of it. So therefore you've created that. And so this goes back to psychology of things too, right? Like you've now created a thing that people resonate as mine, right? Like they can see the pattern in the wood, they can recognize it. It's unique to them. So therefore it has a unique pull to them. Like that's mine, you know?
I agree.
So
and I was going to say, that's kind of like, I was telling you.
Oh, the wood on the
Lyric 2 back in. And this is definitely different than the first one I had. And they're kind of onto something too, because Meze is doing it with these. I mean, yeah, not to the extreme of ZMF, but
sorry, you said it was different from the way before, and I was joking when I said lies. I was just having fun. They do have unique ones, and I think I messed up that thing before we talked about that.
Oh yeah, that's all right. So you guys know I got Meze is very cool and sent me another set because I had no seal with that first set that I had, and I just wanted to see if the first set I had a nick on the cup. I never brought that up during the video just because I was like, yeah, whatever. But they obviously got dropped. I was like, well, maybe there's a chance that I doubt it, but I thought, what the heck? I'll at least get one that hasn't been dropped to see if the seal's any different. So I haven't tried it.
Oh, you haven't tried them yet. I also, Jay, have the Bokeh. Jay was talking about the Bokehs a little bit. And so so I got the Bokehs. And the Bokehs, to me, are they sound very similar to the Atrium Closed, in my opinion. Like, they're very similar. Not quite as detailed. There's like, you know what I mean? It's almost like they're like a step down a little bit, you know? But they're good. Honestly, I think they're a set that they're kind of how the Aeolus was for me when I first got into the ZMF world, where it's like they're just the jack of all. They do everything great, you know. I really dig on them a lot.
Right. Now I forgot to ask you: are those your Bokeh or nice? I mean, I assume since they were
purple,
not stock. So, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So the Bokeh, yeah. So yeah, man, he did such a cool thing with that, man. Zach, and they always just say like, he knows my preference. He knows I like purple, so like he just goes wild, does whatever. Like I think he just experiments on whatever.
Oh, dude, when I linked you guys a picture of the stabilized, I don't know how you say his stands, but yeah. When I showed you a picture of the stabilized stands, I called Brian and I was like, look, and she saw the green one. She's like,
oh, she's gonna fight Jay for that one.
It's pretty.
Yeah,
those are really nice.
I have, let's see, the one. Well, they're all my other thing, but like I have 3 or 4 Soliers, and like these new sets, man. Like these he took it to another level with these ones, man. Like
these are
real nice.
I think yours is probably somewhat similar to this one that I got. So.
Oh yeah. He had
nice
the purple one too, so he's like, "Do you want the purple one or this one?" And I was like, "Man, I have so much purple, but I wanted the purple one." But then I was like, "This was a good contrast to the where we're at here, like the Caldera close." That's why I use this one.
So I wanted to touch on something Rigo said a little while back because he's absolutely right. All you need is an Enlium 23RM, right?
Oh man,
that thing is so nice, man. Dude. I'm missing having that. I don't have $3,000, but I would drop it on that amp.
Like, so I've been doing A-roll all day today, like just kind of talking to myself to a camera, because that's what you do when you do YouTube.
Yep. Pretty much.
But super awkward. Takes forever to get used to. Still don't use. I'm definitely not used to it. But like this, because I had the 23R in for a while. Like I had that, and like that was like one of my favorite amps of all time, like bar none. Stupid good. Like it kicked off my kefs. It rocked the kefs. It rocked the headphones. It was amazing. This is basically that, but tiny. It's like the size of a Kindle book, but like obviously a lot thicker, but it's heavy. Like this is dense. There's like a lot of stuff in this.
It is built so well. Yep.
And it's and the fact that he has the charge on there, and so you can have, so it powers itself. So it has its own power source, which is huge if you know anything about power, because then you get clean power, which means you don't have to worry about noise. You don't have to worry about all this other stuff. There's no feedback. It's just, it's so over engineered. Like I get the price because it's so over engineered, but it's, dude, it just sounds so good. It's so smooth. It's so detailed. It has such power and control. Like it's the dynamic. It's I gushed. Like that's the other problem. Like I'm reading, doing this like A-roll, and I'm just gushing about it. And I'm like, God, I can't just be.
It's
you know what I mean?
No, it's validated. It is such a good amp. And I don't know if maybe I just haven't seen enough on it, but I just don't feel like it gets enough attention. It probably is because of the price.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I mean, I don't know.
Switching to a cocktail to whiskey straight wasn't ready for it.
But
I will
there's a lot of
say
amps that are 8-10 grand and above that get a lot more hype. So I don't know. It deserves more.
the volume knob is not bad. The trick to the volume, so
Scratchy.
It's a little bit scratchy, but like I think the trick to it is, as far as like God, come on, camera. We were friends. There we go. Is like you just have to do that weird like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have to do it from the top. Like you have to. Otherwise, that's the whole point of it. But yeah, I'm going to be sad giving this up, man.
Yeah, I hear you. It was very good. So we haven't actually discussed this yet. What are you thinking? I know you and I both haven't spent much time with him, but what are you thinking of the Caldera close so far?
I told Zach this, and I wasn't sure if I offended him or not. But I basically said, because I like the Caldera opens, right?
Yeah.
But the Caldera opens to me were my least, like they're the most technically superior ZMFs as far as like technical capabilities. But they're my least favorite ZMF because it's like he took all the ZMF flavor out of it to some level, right? Like he was chasing a very specific sound, and I think it was amazing. Like he did it's just for me personally, like I love the ZMF house sound, right?
Yeah.
And so the Caldera close to me is like the Caldera with the ZMF house sound turned to 11. If that makes sense. Like he just basically took the Caldera and he took everything he learned from the Caldera, and he went from like a very neutral. It's not super neutral, obviously, Caldera, but it's the most neutral, I'd say, of his headphones, in my opinion. But like he basically took that lesson and he put the ZMF tune to it, you know? Like,
right. Yeah,
they're warm, they're beefy, they slap.
Yeah, I mean, and incredible details. I really wish I had the Caldera at the time that I did my tungsten video, because that I think makes for a really good A/B comparison. Actually, Rigo's got both of those, so he could chime in on what he thinks on that, because the tungsten is so damn good and scales way up too. But I think I know what you mean, because it's the planar thing. It's the planar effect. You can't get away from that. No matter what you do, you can't.
Yeah. And I've never been a big, like, I've never been, I was about to say ZMF, but that's not true. I'm a huge ZMF fan. I've never been a big planar fan.
Right.
And you're right. Like there's a planar sound. And there was a person that said it before, and he said it's very true. But like for me, it's almost too separated and sharp between notes. Like it's because it's so fast and it's so plucked, like way it sounds, that it's separate. It sounds artificial. It sounds too artificial to me. It sounds too sharp and too cut, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, yeah.
But these don't. These sound like, I was listening, especially with the Inlium. I just get lost. In fact, so a couple times I thought I was listening to the Bokeh, but like they were like on like I thought the Inlium was turning the Bokehs into these like super monster headphones. Like, dang, this is a crazy pairing. And I was like, oh wait, I'm listening to the
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, I know what you mean. I mean, that's kind of, like how you were saying you don't care for hi-fi, man, and I love the RU Organic, but I also understand what it is, and if I want to listen to more natural sound, I'm not reaching for that headphone. I'm reaching for one of the ZMFs or, something like that. So,
and I think it also comes down to, like, I listened to a lot of wood instruments growing up.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, like, my stepmom was a bass player, stand-up bass player, orchestras, symphonies, and she did a lot of other bands too. But like, so I grew up listening to her and her bands with like guitar, all these, they'd come over and practice like every weekend, if not, a couple times a week. And so I was constantly surrounded by wood instruments being played constantly. And so I feel like that potentially was a reason for me having that lean towards the dynamic side of the house over the planar side, because the dynamics have a more natural sound to it, to me, to my ears, regarding like that kind of signature. And so I think maybe that speaks to, like we were talking about before, like the biases that you have. You might not even realize you have biases that were, that it doesn't make sense to some people, right? Like,
I will say,
like
so I'm like probably out of our group that, you've introduced me to and everything, I'm probably the newest into this hobby as far as getting really deep into it. I've always loved headphones, but not to this level. And what you said makes a lot of sense to me, because I was always a speaker guy when I would game on my PC or whatever, even if they were Logitech speakers, but they were speakers. I was always a speaker guy. And when I got into headphones, it was like, gaming headsets and things, but it was never a planar. And the first time I heard a planar, I was like, this sounds weird.
Yeah.
But,
sounds off.
Yeah, now I've adapted to it, but you're right. I mean, I think dynamics just, to me, sound more like speakers than planars do. And maybe that's a terrible way to put it, but that's, I don't know.
It was, so unless you had like Magnipans, or you had like, what's another one that was similar to that, but like that kind of style, right? Where it's like the, then I can see some, but like those are so rare. But and planar is, dude, planar is great. Like I have a pair of Rad Zeros I love. I have these now, and I just, yeah, I'm being converted slowly, but it's definitely, it's, I do dig on them, like and these ones especially, like the, like the design of these, and it's a ZMF, right? So they have they're large, but I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to get the light to catch it there.
Yeah.
The triangle.
Yes.
To see how it's reflecting it, kind of crazy there.
Yeah.
Like I love that look that he created with these. So.
Nothing but love, Jay. I know.
Yeah, we love you, Jay.
No, I mean, that's why I was saying, like, I actually finally liked the E3, like I was telling you, because when I had my Noirs, I think I'm not gonna lie, I got caught into the hype around the Noirs and everybody saying they were good, and I fell into the trap of everyone saying they're good, so they're good. That's why I like them. I never listened to them, and I sold them because they sounded dead. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the other part I need, is so many planars I hear, they just don't have dynamics.
Soulless, man.
Yeah, and I need that. I don't listen to classical. I don't. I do for testing headphones because I know that's important, but just on a normal whim, unless I'm wanting to go to sleep, no, I don't listen to it.
I don't know if Jay just said Triforce vibes. I don't know if you ever seen my wrist tattoo there. My old man hands. But yes, I agree. Like, I think that and that's that we were talking about before, is like that separation, and like they're unnatural sounding to a lot of people, I think, because, like we just said. But once you get acclimated to them, they're so fast. They can slam like nobody's business. Yeah, like Keeb gets like, so Keeb, that's part of the reason why you like them so much. You love metal, like, dude. Mm-hmm. Planars keep up.
Yeah.
I mean, they're, there was a meme and a kind of a joke, but it's like the planar speed, right? Like planar speed,
It's true. And I remember reading a comment on, I don't even remember what video I was covering, but somebody called me out for BS. They're like, what do you mean fast bass? Bass is just bass. There's no such thing as fast bass. I'm like, all right, I get it, but once you hear it, there's no denying it.
And I've heard it in person. Like my stepmom was like electric, when she'd get on her electric bass and just start cranking, like like when I've heard like with these or even some Hyphamens, when you get a solid like bass riff, right, where they're just going to town, Planars. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We got a lot of metalheads in our chat, just as a heads up.
Ancient Alien, I agree. The nanos were really, really good for that price. Yeah, hi-fi man, I know, but no, they were fantastic. I thought for the price, they were in that unnatural side of things, but just insanely detailed for the price they came in at.
Mike, what's going on? Yeah, like I think that's the trick too. Is like I think, but it can go the opposite way. Like these guys are all talking about how like the fuzzed out guitars or get like too many instruments thrown at you at once. And see that my problem with Planars is when that happens, even if they're super fast, sometimes I get the wall of like it's where my anatomy is or whatever, but I get the wall of sound. Also, it all blend instead of doing what it's supposed to do, where they separate. It all just blends together and I just get this like wow wow wow. And I'm just like, all right, I'm done for the day.
Yep. One of the things I like is I do like listening to electronic music and techno and things like that. And I will say, like, a lot of times Planars, I can't do it because you get those synthesized instruments and man, they get stabby, especially if it's not, a lot of those recordings aren't going to be the most excellent on a keyboard, but that
or you get the garage band recordings and it's just like,
yeah, that's when you'll pick it up. And I even wrote that down, just this afternoon. I was listening to the Caldera Closed, and I was listening to some Joe Bonamassa blues music, and I was getting stabby on the Calderas. It's like, but I mean, I'm early. Could have been the chain I was on too. That's the other thing too. That's nice. Is I was like, what the hell? I was downstairs the other day watching my kids while my wife was working, and I had my little Schiit Magni Unity that I bought, and plugged in the Caldera to it. It worked. It's fine. Got good volume and everything. I don't get that with the 300 ohms. I can't. No, it doesn't work that well.
I'm rocking the Schiit. Well, not it's the Schiit. It's the niche Maximus Pietus.
Right.
Pietus. It's Pietus. Every time, dude. I'm horrible at pronunciation. But dude, I love that thing, man. Like it's my most used since getting it. It is the most used amp DAC combo I have, and I don't even like ESS. I have that ESS DAC chip in there, and I don't like. I will be blunt. Like I understand why people like ESS. I can understand, you know what I mean. But it's just not my. If I had to choose, if you said, hey, AKM or ESS, I'd choose AKM every time, or Burr Brown, or like one of the other.
To me, it's more sterile.
Yeah, and it's bright and it's crisp. It's almost like a planar. To me, it's like the planar of the DAC chips, you know? Right. And so, but with this combo, because I don't know, it just works. It's like, and I was like, you know? But then I've also heard some ESS jack chips that have been tuned, like the people tuned it, you know, like the actual company that they put the chip in, they actually spent the time to like tune it, and it will be, you know, but. Oh, yeah, the Z1R, the vegan Vicar, dude, no joke. The Z1R for bass is supposed to be like fantastic if you are a big bass head. Mike, I'm here for you, man. Spend your money. Let's do this.
That's awesome.
Sorry, I jumped around a little bit. I'm reading and trying to chat.
No, you're good. I'm actually looking at my notes too to make sure I didn't skip over something I wanted to bring up.
Sorry,
the tuning kit for the Calderas. So I thought that was interesting because, like, when I got this over from Zach, that was in there, and I didn't even read up on it at first. I was like, "What is this?" I mean, I knew what it was, but I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that came or that's an option with it." So I haven't even tested that yet. But looking again at the graph, it looks like it adds more to low end. So, you know. For what that is, so I'll be excited to check that out when I get a chance to.
I need to do that too with mine, especially if it's going to bring out more low end, because I am a definitive bass head.
Me too.
So
I mean, I need everything else, but yeah, I'm with you.
That's probably why I don't like Electrostats. Is because of that. Like, there's no bass, which is funny because one of my favorite headphones of all time and if I hadn't have gotten the Kefs, I didn't start moving towards speakers. Was SR1A, the Rawls,
Right.
the flappy ones.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, those things are like legit sound like speakers. Like they sound like my Kefs. They sound like I'm listening to my Kefs at the perfect point. Like I'm in the perfect, like, what's that? The triangle, the perfect equilateral distance, and it's all pointed at, and just like those were, you just look like a crazy person with them on your head. But I mean, yeah, fantastic. Those things were amazing, and I've somewhat regret selling them just because they were so good. But I just never. Once I got the Kefs, they replaced the Kefs, did the same thing, but just with So I think if you can ever get a chance to hear the SR1As, that would be worth it.
I heard them at Cayin Jam, but
they're too open, man, at a Cayin Jam.
Exactly. That wasn't a good impression. I do want to get some kind of, electrostat something at home. I did like the Odyssey Carbon quite a bit, and actually the new Dan Clark Karina, I thought that was really good. Short listen at Cayin Jam again. So
yeah, so the E-stats. The thing with the E-stats is it's not that they sound bad. It's that there's just no air movement. It's almost like you're in, like, the way I describe it is like you're in outer space and music's just kind of around you. If that makes sense. Like you're not feeling it. It's just there. Like it's almost like you're in your brain. Like you're imagining it. Does that make sense? Like,
right. Yeah.
You're in a vacuum and it's just there. Like I don't know. But
well, that's like talking about feeling weird. I felt weird as hell when I tried the 1266 when I was at Cayin Jam, because those just kind of sit and they don't couple or whatever you want to call it. They just sit. It just felt like Frankenstein.
Those are weird too, because honestly, that's like the worst place to hear those.
Oh yeah,
because you have to actually dial them in.
I will say that, but.
Did the person dial it into your head? Did they
Yes.
adjust it perfectly to fit? Like, because if you don't do that, like, it will sound like hot doo doo.
Yeah,
he
did. I can never remember the guy's name, but yeah, he put him on my head and he's like, "Here, if you don't mind me messing," I was like, "No, go right ahead, do your thing." And yeah, he said I'm just right. That was an incredible listen, but I was like, I could never own this. I'd feel so uncomfortable. Just I can't move.
Your head's just rocking back and forth. Yeah, E-stats are definitely the anti-slap beef. they sound really cool. Like, it's an experience worth hearing and listening to. But they're definitely not the bass. They're more for, and they do have decent bass. Some of them can, like the S9000, like Vegan says, and like SR007 Mark IIs. They can have a bass presence, but it will be not the same as these. It's not the same as like a proper planar. Like it's just not like
right.
But they do, like, there is something magical. They're very ethereal sounding and a very, I don't know. It's almost like magic, like the way they sound sometimes, like the way that they can present the sounds that they do.
Yeah, I mean, like I said again, I listened just at Cayin Jam, and whatever E-stat I listened to, I hated it, but. I mean, yeah, it was a terrible environment to listen to it. So, Stax has decent bass. Yeah, and near it. Hey, Chris. Thanks for joining.
But yeah, man, I think. Sorry, I went on a weird tangent.
It's okay. Actually, I was going to bring up something else, but I wanted to see if anybody had anything in the chat before I did that.
I mean, got to measure so how you measure whiskey, Chung, is you got to measure the legs on the glass as it comes down.
Right.
I don't know if you can see.
Fast or slow.
Yeah, there's no measuring whiskey. And that's, like, honestly, whiskey is a very subjective thing. Like, that's the definition of a subjective hobby. Is it a hobby or a habit or a little bit of both? I mean, I guess that's all hobbies, right? They're all kind of habits. They're all kind of
guilty pleasure.
Oh, I need that next fix. I need to chase that dragon.
Yeah, that's very true. No, I was actually before our stream started, I was talking to Tyler about it, but I've been diving into cables finally, because I was one of those people that when I first got into the hobby, I was like, whatever, cables, you guys are full of crap, you know, paying $1,000 for cables and trying to say there's a difference in sound. And it's a very small percent. And, you know, one of the things I would always say is, you know, get your headphone IEM, get your DAC, get your amp, get everything set up before you even touch going that far. But yeah, it was cool to experience that. I got a cable from Elitech. I'll have a video out this week on it, and it made a difference on the IEMs that I had listening to, which I hate to even admit it, but I'm actually enjoying listening to IEMs. Never thought I would. Never thought I would, but I'm actually liking it.
And I would say IEMs are actually more noticeable with cables.
Yes, I agree.
And then I'd say headphones are the least noticeable, and then speakers, shockingly, can be more noticeable with cables. And I want to see, this is where the whole like science meets objective meets subjective kind of thing, right? Like where I think there is value in the science of the thing, because there's actual, you know, there's reasons behind these things. And so you look at and this is, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an electrical engineer, I'm not anything. It's just me talking with people that are those things, that tell me these things, and I'm doing my best to regurgitate them and not a, you know, rumor mill where I'm like, it's coming completely off. But so from my understanding is it's because of the resistance in the cables that are being used. So the electrical, it's electricity, right? Electricity's going, it's hitting these transducers and it's making them move.
Right.
Which on paper makes it shouldn't matter, like because it's just providing the power to make the transducers move, right? So and I can see where people would be a naysayer, right? Because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
In one level, but on the other level, depending on the resistance of the cable, means how fast that power is getting and how much of it's getting to the transducer, which then allows for those changes you're hearing. That's how I would view it, right? Like how pure the cable, how easy it is for the electricity to power through the cable to make it a thing that allows your transducers to move more effectively. So if I was looking at it in that sense, that's how I would describe it.
Right. And that's why I said, that's why I completely understand the naysayers, but I tried to learn through this hobby to not speak without experiencing, because I did that early on, and that is a mistake, because once you experience, then you can give your opinion, at least. Or I mean,
agreed.
You can give your opinion if you want, but I'm saying, like, you know.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is, like, it's, I don't know how to say this without being kind of weird, but like, I'll think about how I was going to say this, and I'll go from there. But like your opinion is just that, right? But at the same time, and it's a value. It's a value to have those opinions and what have you. And like, I think it's worth hearing those things. But I think you also need to be able to be open to being wrong. And I think this ties back to the beginning of our how we started this whole show, was the narcissism and the toxicity and that stuff. And a lot of these people are like, dude, a lot of people don't like to be wrong. And that's just it's a human nature thing. I don't like being wrong, but if you're open to being wrong, you'll learn a lot more. You'll experience a lot more. You'll have a lot more opportunities to learn and better yourself. Right. At least that's my weird Dr. Tyler Olive moment. But like, yeah, like I think it's important to be able to be open to being wrong. Cause the more, I think if you don't feel like you can learn anything, then what's the point of being here?
Right.
You know,
I agree. Yeah. And that's why, like I said, when I heard the difference on cables, I was like, I am wrong. I was saying all along, it didn't matter. I mean, hell, Beef, I mean, he helped me out when I was having issues with when I got my HA-3A tube amp in. I couldn't figure out why I was getting so much noise in it, because everybody was saying, you know, no noise. I ripped everything apart in my room. It was a freaking little
USB dongle cable.
USB dongle that was causing my noise, and I ended up spending $100 on a high-end USB cable. And it's a nice cable, and it could have made the difference, but it truly was that little dongle. And yes, cables, even in that sense, can absolutely matter.
So you want to go down a rabbit hole about, so actually Chung just mentioned Passion for Sound's video. I haven't seen that video, but so USB cables, right? So especially when you're hooked up to a computer, that kind of thing. There's a power loop or a power feedback that can happen. And so like I had a similar thing when I was first in the hobby too. And I just built my bottlehead crack, and like I was super excited. Had it with my HA-100s. I just got my HA-100s in. I'm you know, super stoked because it's supposed to be like the peanut butter and chocolate combo of HA-100s and bottlehead crack. And dude, dude, like music's playing, and I'm just like, oh, what is this? Like, so same thing. Tore my whole room apart, unplugging, plugging, you know, everything. Redid it, and days like I literally had my room a mess because I was like pulling stuff and I was like moving my computer to different outlets on the wall, you know, chasing everything, and dude, shocking thing. I had a keyboard. I don't know if I have. Cause I don't have an RGB keyboard on this computer, but I do have
RGB lights can wreak havoc.
So it was just that, dude. Yep. It was the RGB lights in my keyboard had a power loop feedback that was pushing that signal through all of the cables back through the power loop and then into the amp and creating the the coil whine. It was coil whine, and so yeah, that made me really rethink how USB factors into it. And I haven't seen the video for Passion for Sound, but I do know Kitsune Audio. So he's the owner of Kitsune Audio. He's the one that he sells all the maze, the springs, that kind of thing. And he's big on USB. Like they have like the guy that creates the maze, and I believe he's actually a scientist for like where he creates the USB cables, or like he helps create those things for the lowest noise for like medical and for like science reasons, right? So they need to be the lowest jitter possible. So like he's a believer, right? And so I could see it because I mean even Mike, you had that problem with your USB cable, right? Like into the back of your shit there, and like that, it's weird how sometimes it's like a bad cable can just completely change how your whole audio system sounds. Well, but how much of that's the cable of just being a bad cable, like poorly made, and how much of it's like a power loop feedback, or like, you know, it's crazy.
Right. Yeah, no, I experienced it myself. It sounded better in my AudioQuest. Yeah, AudioQuest, that's what it was. Thank you, B, for saying that, because that's the cable I bought, was an AudioQuest cable for my Bifrost. But like I said, wasn't even the issue. But hey, at least I got a nice fancy cable.
Nice AudioQuest cable.
I almost got the IFI Defender and whatever, you know, Contender, Defender, and Protender, Pretender. I don't know. They've got all that kind of stuff. But
there's a company that puts out it's like a noise suppressing power thing, and it's like I can't remember what it's called, but it's a little black like power. It looks like an adapter for like a power cable, right? Like a plug. You plug in, and it eliminates all ground noise from the power source. And dude, I had the Quicksilver tube amp, and noisy as all get out. And the person that sent me the Quicksilver to review or to check out sent me this like noise suppressing power adapter as well. Plug that in, instantly all noise gone. Never had a noise problem. It was bananas, dude. But that shows you how much like why having clean power. Why this thing's so cool with the clean power, why that matters. Power does matter, right? So that, which then then at the same time, if power matters, then cables matter.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones conveying the power to your...
It's all part of the chain. And that is one of those things, like, especially when it comes to actually powering your amplifiers, that's different than this. Because
of course,
that definitely makes a bigger difference than this will. Just because you don't want static noise and all that junk.
Exactly. And it's I don't know, it's crazy, man. Like it blows my mind every time, because it completely, like you just said, like as long as you're open to being wrong or being open to like learning about like, oh, maybe it does make a difference. But I mean, I think one of the things that got me right off the bat with why cables didn't matter when I first got in the hobby, kind of similar to what you're talking about, was if you look at not necessarily these, but like the HC600s, right? So if you look at the driver on the HC600 and the cable, the little power wire that the cables connect to, that goes from the connector, like the connector to the actual driver to send the electrical to power it, it's like it's as thin as a piece of hair. Like it's like my beard hair is thicker than the cable that's so it's like, oh, I have these giant thick cables going to this, you know, and so it's like, how could that matter, right? Like, but maybe that's the bottleneck. Maybe that's, but then again, like it's like the if you ever mess with like the way I was explained was, you have a hose at, like in the water hose, right? And you have somebody step on it, and it has enough water where it's, you know, it's going. Then they put their foot up and blows you in the face, you know, as a kid kind of thing, right? But like that's how you have to. I mean, so it's still getting tons of power to that little bottleneck, but it's you know, it's just maxing it out. You're maxing out the power of that cable.
You just described the current output of the Enlium. That's kind of how that works.
That's exactly how it works.
That's exactly how Enlium explained it to me. So I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Warren, welcome back. Yes, you missed the toxicity and narcissism. We all decided that we're way too toxic.
Yeah.
We need to get on Reddit.
Yeah. Oh, Beef. It's a God. I'll remind me tomorrow on Discord, Beef, and I'll find it. It's like noise. Look up on Amazon. Look up power silencer or noise silencer on or suppressor on Amazon for like audio, and just look. They're expensive though, man. They're like $70 or something like that.
I tell you what also works is when I was having my cable problems, I realized like I was at my desk and I remember I had my RGB light over here. And when I put my hand like in this range, my noise went away. So I called my son over. I was like, "Here, will you hold your hand right here so Dad can listen to his headphones?"
It's like those old. Remember the old back in the day? You had the TV with the antennas. You just have somebody sitting there like,
hold that pose.
Stop, freeze. Oh, that's the good part. Jokes. I'm regurgitating what much smarter people than me have told me is basically what all I'm doing.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Chung brought up about, I think that's kind of what I was talking about with graphs too. It's like, that's why the blind testing thing is hard too, because if you go in with a perceived notion like, hey, I need to be hearing something different, you're telling yourself you're hearing something different. That's why
creating a bias.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, you're okay.
I was gonna say, like what Chung just said, and what you just said, dude. That's why blind tests can be not the greatest sometimes, because people will go in expecting change, and so when they expect change, kind of like with the hearing test, right? You've ever done a hearing test, and you see people like I've talked to a couple audiologists about this, and they're like, yeah, dude, people constantly will be like. And it's like nothing's being played because they're like, oh, it must be now, like because they're it's funny.
Yeah, and yeah, Warren, exactly. I mean, I'm not.
Dude,
gonna
I
lie.
love a pretty cable, man.
Hard audio cables aren't like top of the line by any means, but this I bought. I don't even know if the camera's gonna pick that up. Probably not. I got this specifically made for the atrium closed because it matched the atrium closed. Why not?
So I have from Schiit. I'm talking to Schiit. Skedra Viking Weave cables.
Nice.
And so he, not gonna be able to showcase this. We'll see. There it is. We could see the. It's like it's opal basically for the split, and it's a purple cable, but it's neck jewelry, man. Like cables,
right?
And Beef mentioned it too, man. Like, I don't know if you see me, I'm messing with the ZMF cable, but like it's like I listen to music and I'll just sit there and I'll rub, what I mean? I twirl them around my hands. I freaking, like it is, man. There's something about the feel and how pretty it is or how nice it looks. It matters. It's
which
important.
is why we have this overwhelming disappointment when we buy a high expensive headphone and crap cables are included with it. We're like, come on. What is this?
Catheter cables on a hyphen.
Right. The jump rope that they include with the Nano. I remember that. It was like a 9-10 foot cable. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Or the HA-100s in there. That stock cable is like 8 feet. Is it 8 feet, 9 feet long? Some crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fidget in game. Exactly. But yeah, that's also true. Right. Like that always blew my mind when you got like pulled out a Hypherman and like it was literally Like, if you've ever been to a hospital, it's literally feels like the rubber tubing you see all over the hospitals.
I feel like companies are catching on to that though, because I've noticed, like you've seen with Meze, like Meze's got these really nice cables now with their newer headphones. They're excellent. You know, Zach's doing it. He's been doing it, but I'm curious if Focal's gonna follow suit, because I hated their cables.
You don't like the vacuum cleaner cable?
No.
You remember the 1970s? You ever had, like, did your parents ever have like a 1970s vacuum or like the old lamps? It's lamp cord, dude. It's the vacuum lamp cord.
Terrible. Yeah, tungsten does come with a Viking cable. Very nice.
Yeah, they collabed pretty.
Like, I mean, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, don't make the person go, I'm gonna have to buy a new cable. No.
Did you see the collab with Viking and O'Neill?
Oh
Goose?
yeah.
The
I wonder if he
alien.
sold that yet. I know. I haven't checked in with them.
Just the jewels alone that they inlaid in there were worth stupid money. Like that's like, he uses real jewels. Like, that's jewel. Like, it's legit jewelry.
Yeah, so. It's a gorgeous collab.
Yeah, I wore in the bracelets. I wanted a set, and they never. Yeah, the Mez cable bracelets were dope.
You didn't try plugging them in to anything to see if they actually work? I would have. Put a banana plug on it.
And then, did you read Marvin's comment down a little bit below? Ribbed for your pleasure, Marvin. Ribbed for your pleasure.
They could easily collab with some tips.
What's up, Tom? Yeah, cheese and rice. Yeah, you don't want to short an amp or something. But yeah, like, I think that it's an interesting world that we live in, with the way that people go so hard about that stuff, man.
Yeah. And Jay,
100%, exactly, Jay.
Man.
Yes. Love, that's always, dude. Get back up, dust stuff off, and go, okay.
Yep.
Next thing, let's go.
There's not a thing wrong with saying you're right,
dude. Yeah. And the day you stop learning, man, that's the day you need to go lay in bed and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Sorry, being a little dark there, but but yeah, like, I think that's the whole point of this world we live in, man. I was like, let's keep learning. I
actually, this is completely off topic, but I remember I wanted to bring this up because I think I messaged you on Discord about it. But to give you a little short backstory in this, so Linus from Linus Tech Tips did a review of the Dusk. I don't know if the headphones guy
did he listen to it at 65 decibels exactly?
I mean, he should have. To be fair, he should have. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who sent it to him. I could make some guesses, but he did a review of the Dusk, and there was something he said that had nothing really to do with, the collab with Critical or whatever. But he was saying, I think it's $350, and he was like, yeah, it's $350, so it's pretty expensive, and a lot of people are gonna frown on that. It's just an audio device, and I had a problem with that because I'm like, all right, dude. You do videos all the time on these crazy 8K monitors or whatever that are $8,000 or
his computer system at home is like 10-15,000 easy, like system that he has at his house. Like, and you had brought it up. It's like, look at the pen hobby, look at any hobby. I mean, you're gonna have knives. That's the biggest thing I have issues with, because I was on the outside looking in before I got into this hobby and thinking how crazy it was for $1,000. People collect action figures that are thousands and thousands of dollars. This is Amiibo. It's not. It's like $10, but like.
But I mean, it's another one of those things. It's like, don't hate, just appreciate.
Congratulate. Go kick rocks or something.
Well, yeah. But seriously, I mean, it's let somebody enjoy their hobby. That's
agreed.
It's my way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was one thing he said during that video that I had a problem with. Everything else, whatever, was fine. But I was like, come on, don't just trash on it because of that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's. I mean, you can even get into like woodworking, like the woodworking hobbies, right? Some of the tools those guys have are like $10,000 tools plus, like higher, depending on what it is, right? Like, it's no joke, man. A lathe and even like what Zach uses, right? Like the to get these things like perfectly machined to where they need to be, right? Like, it's crazy. Sorry, Warren has a really good comment here. He said, just one quick thing about the toxicity discussion. For me, this entire hobby is about enjoyment. I get why pro audio applications require specific functionality, but in the audiophile world, the one and only meaningful criteria is whether we are enjoying music with our gear. There doesn't need to be any more than that. And I 100% agree with that. And that's part of the problem that we were talking about, the toxicity part about it. Like, even going into the measurement space and that kind of thing that we were talking about earlier, is like, you get these people, and not to like shoehorn somebody into like a specific tribe or group, but like, you do have people that will basically spit out like, hey, this graph is garbage. Like, it says this thing sounds horrible. But then you'll have a kid that comes on and they love this headphone. So are they wrong, or is the other person wrong? And who are we to judge somebody's enjoyment, right? It's not like they're harming anybody. Like, it's one thing if it's harming somebody, right? If their enjoyment harms somebody else, then yeah, maybe there's a problem. But if it's super like, this is a subjective thing, then why do you need to tell that person that they're wrong for having fun and enjoying themselves?
It's one of the rare hobbies where everyone's opinion is correct.
Yeah.
As long as you don't, force that on others.
Yeah. Kind of goes to the golden rule, right? The golden rule of do unto others you want done unto yourself, man.
Yeah.
Only harming is harm. Dude, there's your shirt. Jay, there's the shirt. There's the shirt right there. And yeah, exactly, Warren. Like, there's no absolutes. It's like, if you're having fun with, there's people that in this hobby that I've come across that chase the gear. Like, they don't even really, I mean, at least it seems like it, right? Like, they don't necessarily like the music they listen to, but they love the gear. Like, there's people that just love that, chasing that. I call it chasing the dragon for all these hobbies, right? Like, there's the audio dragon. There's people chasing that perfect audio sound. So they go into like HQ player and they're doing like these super res files, and they're chasing that, right? They're chasing this perfect audio signal. Then there's the people that chase the perfect audio headphone, the perfect speaker setup, the perfect amp. There's people that chase certain things in every hobby. There's, in the pen hobby, it's the people that chase that perfect piece of paper that has the perfect resistance for the way that they write. Like, everybody has a kink. Yeah. So no kink shaming.
You touched on something there that struck a nerve with me, because that is the other thing with, it's not necessarily the toxicity part of it, but it's that chasing the gear. And one thing I worry about when people get into this hobby, because I've experienced this myself, is you have the really high-end audiophile that, every piece of their gear is thousands of dollars. And then you have the person starting out, and I cannot stand it when that person is like, your opinion's trash because you're listening on subpar gear.
Which is insane.
That happens all the time, and it drives me up the flipping wall. Dude,
no joke. When I first got into the hobby, and it actually almost turned me off. I almost left right off the bat. So I was like, okay, I'm researching headphones because I was having my daughter, and that's how I got into headphones. I was moving away from speakers. I was actually starting to dive into speakers, back into it. And then my daughter came around, so I was like, okay, well, I can't have speakers because she's sleeping. You're a dad, you know these things. You got her, and so. Started researching headphones for gaming, for listening to music or movie, basically how do I listen and do the things I want to do without disrupting a baby. So anyways, I got into headphones, started listening and researching, got to blah, blah, blah. And so I went to our headphones on Reddit, which
mistake number one.
Mistake number one. Mistake number two was I was like, oh, they have this new thing called Discord. I wonder what this is about. Let's join this. Oh man, like cheese and rice, as we'd like to tell our daughter, instead of saying Jesus Christ, you say cheese and rice. And so there is this group of people. Remember I was talking about there's those people that get put up on a platform, right? And they're considered the leaders of the tribe, or or for whatever reason they're deferred to. They're like the deferred. But this in that group, there was a couple that were just so toxic, and I called them the roving band of just like poo, they'd poo on everybody if it didn't fit their criteria of what was good. And they're almost hipster about what they thought was good too, by the way, but beyond that. And there's this kid, I remember this kid jumped on. I was what do you call that when you lurk? I was lurking and reading, and this kid jumps on and he's like, a college kid, I think, and he's like super stoked. He just spent like the most money he's ever spent on a piece of anything. It was like $300-400. He bought these $400 headphones. And he's you can tell he's just excited. He's typing away on the Discord, and these guys show up, and it's these deferred to guys, right? And they just crapped all over this kid, and they just made him feel like crap. Like you could see the way he changed, the way he was typing from like the super excited kid to this defeated kid to the sad kid to this kid that just didn't even care about his headphones anymore and just left. And he left the Discord, he left the, you know what I mean? It was like this whole thing. And so they literally came in and ruined a potential person that was going to further that hobby. And that was where I was like, okay, you guys are wrong. Like that's wrong. That's not how this should be done.
And it happens every day. And
constantly.
It drives me nuts. And that's what gives the persona, because I got friends that aren't into audio at all. And when I got into it, just the running joke was, oh, you're going to be one of those audiophile snobs. That's where that comes from.
It does.
And it's not right.
Yeah, agreed, Marvin. Agreed. Actually, it's funny. A couple of those guys are actually well known in this space. I'm not going to put names out there, but they're very well known. And like it was very off-putting to me when I first saw that. And then I found out that they're like actually big names in the industry to some level, or at least in the community.
Right.
But beyond that, then you have the flip of that, and you have people like ZMF, or you have people that you can easily walk up to and have full conversations, and they're just the super chillest, nicest people in the world, and they'll help guide you and be super nice. That's how I found the guy that I got mentored by, and he was just this super chill dude that was retiring and had a lot of money and was happy to have me over and listen to all this really expensive gear that was insane.
Yeah.
And it was great. And
the sad truth, and it's not sad, it's good actually, but the sad truth is that there's a lot more of those guys than there are the toxic ones. It's just like we said earlier. It's unfortunately that gets the attention.
Yeah.
Because it speaks louder.
Mm-hmm. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. But
yeah, that's been my experience. And that's why I love this hobby, because there's so many of the good people like you, like all these guys in the chat. So
yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like you're right. There's majority of the people are good people. Like, and here's the thing. Like, I also have this feeling like I might not like somebody. I might not like, I think we were talking about this earlier. Like, I might not have the greatest experience with a certain group of people, for instance. But for me, like, I'm going to be opinionated about those people. But at the same time, like, I would do my best to try to remove my bias if somebody has to engage with those people or group, to remove my bias for their benefit, right? Because who knows, they might become best friends with those people. That might be the person or people that make them feel at home or feel happy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so who am I to say, hey, don't be friends with those people? Like, or, you know what I mean? Or that group. But that goes in hand with that narcissism and toxicity we talk about as well, because that just means as a group, we need to be better about being self-aware of that as well. Like, our own biases, our own opinions are ours, not necessarily fact.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, spitting. We're waxing poetic over here with some.
Fidelity is a myth. Yes, Warren. Fidelity is a myth in many cases. You're right. Because a lot of
there's a method.
We have no idea.
My madness.
Yeah. No stage given, nothing escape. Yep. Yeah, exactly true. It's just about enjoying the music.
Agreed. I know a bunch of audio engineers too, which is crazy, through this hobby, just by being in the space, right? And so I chat with a couple guys like that are, making music on the regular, and I always joke with them, like, so what's the as the artist intended?
Yeah,
they just laugh. They just laugh. They're like, what do you mean? They made the music. It's as intended as it is going to be from like it's. And if you really want to get into it, a lot of these people they're mastering for AirPods. They're mastering for car audio. They're mastering for, so they're not mastering for like this crazy, you know what I mean? Like it's so hilarious that some of the people get so hung up on stuff like that, where it's like, and when you actually talk to the people, like an artist, most musicians aren't even audiophiles. They listen to they listen to like cost peripherals or Beats or AirPods. That's how they listen to music. Like they don't, you know what I mean? Like it might have speakers, but
Yeah. No, it's very true. ASR is
no,
really fun
I
there
do hear
because-
ASR is a wild time. They throw some wild parties, guys. I don't know.
Yes, they do.
It's a whole lot of
Check out this sine wave. How did they intend that?
Sorry, that was low blow. That was just being bad. That's low blow. Right? But yeah, I mean, actually, I know a bunch of people like that too, man. They got into certain of those hobbies too, right? Where they found the wrong tribe.
Yeah.
And they dove into the wrong tribe and they started to like fall out, like kind of like that kid I was talking about. He got in at the wrong time, got hit, but like maybe later down the road he found the right tribe that was like, oh yeah, that's a great headphone, or hey, this music's great, or maybe you got, you know what I mean? So it's just it just takes time. You find your tribe in the good way, not the bad way. But then, like all things, tribalism, like we're talking about in the negative side of that is in its nature, you have tribe versus tribe, right? So that's just. And then human nature is just that way. Look at Nintendo versus Sega, you know, Xbox versus PlayStation. Look at, you know, it's just the way it is. People love to pick a side and fight to the death for it.
I've always said it would be fun to do a stream. It would probably be impossible to keep it civil, but to do a stream with like complete measurement guys with complete subjective guys and just wrap it out and see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. There'd have to be some rules set up for that one, but it would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I think that a lot of people that you would think are super objective are actually not as objective as they, I was gonna say pretend, but
true.
like as much as they push in their
Projected.
media persona, you know?
Yeah, that's very true.
Just like I think a lot of people that are super subjective. I mean, but yeah, I think you're right though. To get like the proper, I mean, there's I could name a couple people that are proper objectivists, right? That are, and they're just, it's like hard to talk to them because they're just not, you know, I don't know how to explain it. Like I can't understand their perspective, right? I'm trying my best, but like I just can't. I've interacted with a couple of them like that, and I'm like, but there's so much more to it than just this, you know, like.
Yep.
Yeah, tea, dude, coffee, tea. Like, oh my god, like I have a couple. Like that's a whole other beast.
It is.
I mean, you guys, the Bay Boys know the coffee, dude. That crowd is crazy.
You found them extraordinarily positive and supportive in the hobby.
Oh, 100%. There's a ton of a lot of the guys are in the chat right now, actually. Like, and it's funny is I left a bunch of like the big public discords, a big public forums, and then found my way to these private discords or got invited, you know, and that's where I think I found a lot of the smaller groups that had it's weird, man. Like, 'cause there's a lot of conflict in these smaller groups, but they fix it. They, you know what I mean? They self-right and they agree to disagree. They find ways to, you know, understand each other, right? Like, I don't know. I think it's a little more healthy in these smaller groups. I think once you get to a certain size of groupthink, that it becomes problematic, I think. I don't know. Your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And yeah, I've definitely come across people that have been very positive. And I guess again, that just goes back to the, you know, unfortunately this became a topic just because it does scream louder than the positivity and the other things that we see day in and day out. So it's never going to stop. Like doing this video is not going to, or the stream is just a talk, of course, but
it's a good discussion.
Right.
Maybe somebody will have, you know,
Maybe
learn
they'll think
something from it.
Right.
Think differently. Yeah. Maybe there'll be a little spark that, hey, maybe
I know, like I said, like, you know, thanks to you, like when I first got into doing the YouTube, you gave me some advice about, you know, comments and not engaging. And I can't tell you how many times I'll see a comment. I'll be like, okay, no, not going to do it. Moving on.
And you have all the time in the world online. That's the other thing that blows my mind. Like some of these people will put out like comments, right? And actually Marvin nails it too. Is like the keyboard commando, we call, you know, like the keyboard commandos, the ones that can just hide behind a screen name that, you know. And so when you have that, you do have a sense of like, I can do whatever I want and I won't be held accountable. Because in person, those same people, nicest people you'll ever meet.
Mm-hmm.
But behind a keyboard, they could be some of the most toxic, nasty people you've ever met. In fact, remember I said about the kid that got attacked by those guys? I've met a couple of those guys later on just by being in the hobbies for so long. And in person, super nice, super meek, chill people. Like they're not very loud. They're not very aggressive, very chill. But online, on a Discord, in a forum.
Yeah.
So
no, it's very interesting how people can be that way. Easier to do.
Yeah, agreed. But that's what I was going to say too, is like, remember I was telling you like when you're online though, which blows my mind, you have all the time in the world to respond. Like, it's not like, you know what I mean? You're not having to respond. Like, you're not in person. You're not having to like think on your feet, try to like say something. Like you have all the time to rethink and re-put what you need to say without being aggressive or, you know, whatever, offensive or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to brew no whack leaves, man. So I had a buddy actually came over. He was hardcore into tea and coffee, and he had it down where he had the measurements down. Measurements, by the way, tea and coffee, science and measurements factors heavily because you need to have the right amount of heat, water, and tea ratios for the perfect flavor. And so I had a guy that came over, measured, had little measuring tools, had all his little special tools to make tea. And he made this green tea for me. And it was bananas good. Like, greatest tea I've ever had. And it was like, he had it down to where he would remove the tea he had a little timer. So the timer would count down to like from 15 seconds. You could only steep it for 15 seconds or like, you know, I'm exaggerating, but like he had it down to a science, like exactly this amount of time, this amount of heat. Like he had the thermometer for like, it's crazy.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, I've always, not always, but for many years I've been a coffee drinker, and I got a slow pour, whatever you call it, with the, you know, pour over coffee. I love it. Like, I'll never drink Keurig coffee again now that I've experienced it.
Well, yeah, dude. Like, so I used to be a big pour over and French press guy, and then just because of you know, your dad, kids, everything else, you just don't have time, you know. So like, but now I started getting back. So I did the whole Nespresso thing, which, you know, and then you get acclimated to it, and then you have a good. And then so I recently started getting real coffee again, and doing pour overs, and like, holy smokes, man, I forgot how good coffee can be. Like, I don't like, oh, who needs sweetener? Who needs anything? It's just straight black pour of coffee. And it has so many like nuances and flavors, and anyways.
Oh yeah, very true. Hey, going to MJ's comment on the.
We keyed on the same thing.
I wish I could tell you, because I felt that's exactly was my thought when I first got into the hobby. I was like, whoa, wait a second. I was like, let me buy my headphone first. Yeah. I mean,
so I would say, and Jay and I talked about this too, and maybe they'll resonate. Sorry, Ryan.
Go ahead. You're good.
So we always say, like Jay and we talk about all the time, is when you go for a DAC, DACs are super important. Find a budget overall, and like pick a budget for your DAC, max it out and buy that DAC, and then forget about it for as long as you possibly can until you scale up to the point where you're like, you feel like that's becoming a bottle neck for you. But the reason it is that way is because you have to look at what headphones, like minus these, because these are all shiny and pretty, and you know there's so much more put into these than just standard headphones. But like, so like an HD800, right? This is plastic. It's molded plastic. They mold inject it. There's a specific driver that's mass produced, so the pricing can go way down. And it's not complicated. There's not much to this. It's a magnet, some paper cones, some basic materials of like leather or whatever. So the price of this is the price of the materials. So take the same concept. Go grab. Sorry, I'm unplugging stuff here. Something like. What is this plugged into? I forget that the ADI has that crazy power cable that you have to like twist. So I'm like yanking on this thing. So then you get something like this, the ADI, which is light. It's not much to it. But if you actually open this up, there is a ton of circuits. There's a bunch of CPU. There's a bunch of silicone in here. There's a bunch of stuff in here that is doing a whole lot. It's like buying a mini
That's a good
computer.
way to
Like
put it.
you're buying a laptop. This is a
Right.
laptop. It's not play games or that kind of stuff, but you're essentially buying a computer. So think of it in that terms. Like, so, and then with an amp, it's the same kind of concept, but you think of it in the sense of it's delivering power. So you're buying something that's has all these different resistors and
Yep.
other things like that to basically deliver the best power possible to these, to give them
Cleaner
what they
power, more current,
more
I mean, it
more
all-
current,
it
more
all
yeah.
matters.
So
I mean, the NLium's a good example of that. Excellent example
Yeah.
of that.
and that's what you're paying for. Like and then you go into like the whole, like, this is over engineered. Like, this thing is bananas. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that it's this small and has that much power and can do what it does. So, and
Or
so
you
that's
can
like,
just build a bottlehead crack.
or you can spill a bottle like crack. I mean,
Like
it's
I
been
did
figured
and
out.
not have it work.
I mean, I did say, actually, my mine, I had to resolder mine a bunch of times. But yeah, and then cheap things tend to be made in the
But-
millions.
And nobody says it on this comment, but I remember reading, I think it was one of my other streams, and I do agree with this. Like, when you're getting in the hobby, I do think it's important to start at, like, the 100. I don't even want to put a price to it, but start at the beginner level. Like, don't just jump up. Get the
you want to
experience.
appreciate.
The experience is
appreciate.
awesome, man. That is one of the best parts about it, is to go through that experience.
And I would say, top, like he mentions it here, the $600 minimum, $200 to spend for a good DAC ramp combo. Honestly, your best bets are the JDS Lab stuff and the Schiit stuff.
Yep.
As far as like entry level stuff, that's going to be just killer for a long time. I would say the JDS Labs Atom combo, the DAC Atom amp, and then their Element and or their LDAC L amp, like, stupid good combo right there. And then the Schiit stacks are the next. I would say between those two, I lean a little bit more towards the JDS Lab stuff than the Schiit stuff. But the Schiit stuff is really good. Like, it's really, really good.
Yeah, agreed.
But that's just prep. Like, the reason I lean JDS Labs is because I'm weirdly, that was like my first high end. I got the Element back when I first was the very first Element when it came out. And I remember that was like I was like, oh, this thing's, and so I'm biased because I have nostalgia for it, not necessarily because it's
right. Yeah, I agree. Beef IFI is another good one to get into. I've heard
They get
quite a few things of theirs.
Get that bass boost,
Yes, you
the
do.
slap button,
You can't go wrong
make
with
it
that.
slap, the make it slap button. Boop.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, just coming out now that, even a couple of years ago. Look at the blow up of freaking dongle DACs. I mean, it's nuts. That's becoming like IEMs. Just how many of those things are coming out now. They're
Dude,
good.
like, the fact that this is performing the way it is at this size tells me that dongles are coming.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine NLium making a dongle amp DAC combo, like, or just an amp on dongle, like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
crazy.
Warren, the Midgard, I don't know, maybe someday I'll do a follow-up video to my Midgard video, but the Midgard is really good. What I found with that one, I've actually found it on HeadFi, and I completely agree. It's good for dynamics. I don't like it with planars. I shouldn't say
That's
I don't
fine.
like
Nobody
it. It's
likes
just,
planars anyways.
right?
So.
I shouldn't say I don't like it. I don't like it as much because that halo topology, when you actually understand it, and it took me a while to get it, it really works with dynamics much more than it does, because it has something to do with the voice coil more so than it does with planars. And yeah, it is a crazy good amplifier if you're using it for that use case. So like, I didn't like it with the E3. I listened to the Caldera on it. It was just okay. But when I throw my dynamic driver headphones on it, it's good.
Yeah, that's
But
what I
yeah,
heard too.
crazy
Like,
good value.
but it's one of my buddies did a write up for it on SBAF. I think it was a really good write up, and he mentioned that too. It's like really, really fantastic with dynamics.
Yeah.
The niche, what I'm listening to, the Maximus Pietus. Yeah, Pietus. It's stupid. Sorry, I like freeze. Fantastic. Like, I was surprised how good this is with the Caldera. Like, because I was expecting that what you just described and because it's such a unique topography with the way they did this amp, that, And then that gain, how you can change the gain on it is just fantastic. So
Yeah. Yeah, the iBasso DC Elite, that sucks, Rico. What are you talking about? Okay.
which one? I have not heard that.
No, that
No, I
thing's
haven't.
awesome.
Is it?
It really makes me question owning my Cayin RU7, but no, that the DC Elite is fantastic of a dongle DAC. That thing, I actually I had to box it up because I got to send it back to Audio 46, but I was listening to it today with the Caldera. Holy crap! I mean, little.
That's good praise then.
It's good, man. It's just got just such a full sound. It's good. It's a really good dongle DAC.
If only I was into dongles.
Right?
No, it's weird, man. Like, so anytime I ever think about like, okay, well, what's my use case? That's why I don't like IEMs, right? Because my use case for using those kind of things, and it's not that I don't like IEMs. It's just I prefer headphones, and let's be real, if I had the option, I'd be listening to speakers 24/7 rather than, moot point. But so for me, like I'm generally, I don't think I'm practical, but like if I'm out and about, I'd rather just have like those Arvana Aces or the AirPod Pro 2s, because it's for those scenarios. I'm not listening critically. I'm not listening. Yeah, I'm not listening for like super chill, relaxing. I'm not trying to like dive deep into my music. I'm usually multitasking. I'm usually walking around. You know what I mean? It's more like a distraction from me moving from point A to point B, or like I'm doing other things and it's just background. And so the only time it really matters for me is if I'm on vacation and I don't want to lug around big ass headphones and, something portable amp to go, whatever. That's where IEMs really shine for me.
And I think that's why I'm getting into IEMs more now, because what I'm finding as doing reviews and things is I can be downstairs just at my kitchen table or something with the kids playing and everything, and see what's going on and listen to those, and it's just a lot easier to handle with IEMs and using a dongle DAC. And so I'm growing to them more, to seeing the use case of them. Yeah, I still prefer headphones over IEMs, but I get it. I mean,
there's a convenience to IEMs as well.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because I was just having that same kind of weird. I've been struggling with doing audio, like my videos for like the audio gear I have, partly because I had such a break from when I went on vacation and I got sick, whatever. But it's been like I've been sitting here like it's been hard for me to listen critically, and because I just want to enjoy the music. You know what makes sense? Like I don't want to listen to it critically. I want to listen to it for enjoyment. That's why I got into this hobby. That's what I'm here for. And so that makes me more like a proper subjective person in regards to this realm. But like I don't enjoy like picking apart gear, if that makes sense. Like it's not something that brings me joy. It's not something like, I don't know how to explain it. Like but I'll find myself just like kind of like, so I'll put it off because I know I'm going to be picking apart. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not fun to me to pick something apart. So what I found recently is what I started like, I'll listen to things like I'll have like these on, I'll be listening to music and I'll start playing video games or something without any audio in the video game, but just all audio in the headphones for music. And just kind of like, yeah, just kind of paying like, it's like multitasking to some level. So it lets me kind of get into this weird Zen thing where I can listen to music and kind of, okay, how am I hearing it? And that's been helping a little bit get back into it. Right. But yeah, it's hard, man. Like it's like people, I mean, trying to pick something apart is not easy. And then trying to find the words to describe what you're hearing is a whole other package.
No, it's very true. Yeah. And that's another one of those, when I was talking about, before we started the stream about you're an audiophile when, I feel like there's a complete sentence there when your playlist has this, this, and this, because I feel like we all have certain songs we'll all share that we test for test tracks.
Yeah.
We don't actually listen to them. We just use them for test tracks.
Yeah, like I'm listening for when the bass hits, or I'm listening for the high at this certain point, and then I'll skip to another track, or I'll zoom through it to find that next section where I need to pick this part apart. Is it here? And that's just not like I need to do it because that's what I put myself into this position to do. But at the end of the day, like that's not why I'm here. Like I want to listen to music. Yeah. I want to enjoy the music I'm listening to.
Yep, 100%. Well, we're about hitting the 2-hour mark. I suppose we want to look at fast.
I'm surprised my
But this
wife
was
and daughter's
fun.
coming in. Yeah, man. But yeah, we should definitely do some more fun. Maybe next time we'll do some hi-fi after dark. Maybe do some more, find some other cool topics, what have you.
Yeah, I would happily join you for one of those. That'd be great. Between the
I think Warren's talking about the high-end total IEM space.
Oh yeah,
it's
20,000.
bananas, man. Some of those IEMs. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think it sparks for. Remember, so Warren. I think to me, like this comes from a lot of the people. It's the city factor, right? Like because a lot of people can't have speakers, can't have big headphones in their apartments or condos or what have you. So it's just so much easier to spend money on little things that sound amazing and huge and pop them in your ear. You don't think about it. It doesn't take much, So I agree. I think that's definitely a trend what we're seeing. It's definitely leaning more towards that IEM space for portable audio for sure.
It is. Yeah, thanks ETA for joining us.
Yeah, Tom, what's going on, bro?
Assume that was Tommy. Yeah, thanks for joining. Use Kia.
Yeah.
Hey, no joke.
Just kidding, for real. And Warren and everybody, I'll be seeing you guys Can Jam SoCal. So I'll see you guys there.
Nice.
Hopefully.
I'll be there as
Wife late. Are you going to SoCal again?
Nice. Oh yeah, I will be there.
I have a buddy, another couple buddies are going too. So it'll be a packed trip this year.
Very good.
Yeah. So see everybody at SoCal Can Jam, and Schiit, fantastic.
Yeah, this was a great stream. Enjoyed having you.
We'll have to
maybe next time it'll be compliments and flattery in the audio space.
How the artist intended it.
There you go. All right.
And then, cheers, bro.
Cheers.
Finish this little bit off and